Every single day, Rolex produces approximate finished watches, until you realize that the waiting list for certain models stretches beyond 10 years. There are people alive today who placed an order for a specific Rolex, and statistically may not live to receive it. The company generates over $10 billion in annual revenue, sells nothing online, has no stock market listing, answers to no shareholders,
and has been privately controlled by a charitable foundation since 1944. But none of that is the most extraordinary thing about what happens inside their factories. The most extraordinary thing is this: every component in every Rolex, every gear, every spring, every jewel bearing, every link in every bracelet is manufactured entirely in-house from raw material by Rolex itself. No other watch company at this scale does that. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how it's made. The Swiss watch industry generates roughly $25 billion per year in exports, and Rolex alone accounts for roughly a quarter of that. It is the single most recognized luxury brand on Earth by consumer surveys, above Louis Vuitton, above Ferrari, above every other name in luxury goods. And it achieved that status not through fashion or celebrity, not through trend cycles or seasonal collections, but through one single relentless obsession: manufacturing precision that verges on the compulsive. The world of high horology, serious watchmaking, is opaque almost by design.
The major Swiss manufacturers do not generally invite cameras into their production facilities. The processes are proprietary. The craft knowledge embedded in the hands and eyes of their master watchmakers represents competitive advantages built over generations. What we know about how a Rolex is made comes from Rolex's own carefully controlled disclosures, from industry specialists, and from the evidence of the watches themselves, objects that can be taken apart, studied, and measured with extraordinary precision by collectors and technicians worldwide. What that evidence shows is a company that does not cut corners at any stage of production, even stages that will never be seen by the owner of the finished watch. In an industry where most manufacturers outsource components, or at least raw materials, Rolex's vertical integration is almost total. It is the foundation of everything. It begins with metal. Rolex uses three primary metals in its watch cases and bracelets: stainless steel, which they have developed their own proprietary grade of; gold, which they alloy and cast themselves in 4 colors; and platinum for their most exclusive pieces.
The stainless steel used by Rolex, designated 904L, is a grade more commonly found in the chemical and aerospace industries than in consumer products. It contains higher nickel and chromium content than the 316L steel used by virtually all other watch manufacturers, making it more resistant to corrosion and more difficult to scratch. It is also significantly harder to machine, to polish, and to work with. Rolex chose it anyway because it is better. The cost and manufacturing difficulty are secondary considerations. The gold that goes into a yellow, white, rose, or Everose gold Rolex is alloyed at Rolex's own foundry in Plan-les-Ouates, a suburb of Geneva that hosts the majority of Rolex's manufacturing operations. Gold arrives as refined metal, typically in bar or grain form from certified refineries, and is combined with precise quantities of silver, copper, palladium, and other metals to create Rolex's proprietary alloy formulations. The specific ratios that produce Everose gold, Rolex's 18-karat rose gold alloy that resists the fading and color change that affects standard rose gold over time, are a company secret. The alloy is poured into molds and cast into the cylindrical blanks that will become watch cases and bracelet components. The platinum used in their highest end pieces, Daytona, Day-Date, is 950 parts per thousand pure, sourced from certified suppliers and handled through its own processing stream. Platinum is one of the densest and most difficult metals to work with in precision manufacturing. A platinum Rolex Day-Date weighs noticeably more than its gold equivalent. It is also one of the most expensive objects in the entire Rolex catalog, with retail prices exceeding $50,000. The watch case production begins with the cast metal blanks entering a machining center. Rolex's machining operations use high-precision CNC turning and milling centers, computer-controlled machines with positioning accuracy measured in microns, to cut the rough blank into the complex three-dimensional form of the watch case. A Rolex case has dozens of surfaces, angles, curves, and features. The lugs, the projections that hold the strap or bracelet, must be machined to exact dimensions, because the bracelet end links are sized to fit them with no perceptible play.
The crown tube, the threaded port through which the winding crown passes, must be cut to thread tolerances tight enough to seal against water at depths of 300 meters. The machining process removes the majority of the metal from the blank. The resulting swarf, the metal chips and turnings, is collected, sorted by alloy type, and recycled back into the casting process. Rolex wastes essentially nothing. In precious metal manufacturing at this scale, even the dust captured in the air filtration systems is processed to recover gold and platinum. But this is where things get interesting. After machining, the case surfaces are still rough, tool marks, burrs, micro scratches from the cutting operations. What happens next is one of the most labor-intensive and skill-demanding processes in the entire factory, and it is one that no machine has yet fully replicated: hand finishing. Rolex cases combine two types of surface finish: brushed and polished. The brushed surfaces, typically the flanks of the lugs and the sides of the case, have a fine, linear texture created by drawing an abrasive media across the surface in one direction. The polished surfaces, the bevels, the bezel, the top of the lugs, are mirror bright, reflecting with the clarity of a perfect mirror. Getting from a machined surface to either of these finishes requires multiple stages of progressive abrasive work using increasingly fine abrasive papers, diamond pastes, and ultimately buffing wheels loaded with polishing compound. The challenge is maintaining perfectly sharp transitions between the brushed and polished zones. Where a brushed lug surface meets a polished bevel, there must be a crisp, defined boundary. Not a gradual blend, not a rounding of the edge, but a sharp geometric line. Maintaining that line through multiple polishing steps on a three-dimensional curved surface requires judgment and tactile sensitivity that takes years to develop. Workers who specialize in this finishing operation are among the most skilled in the factory, and their work is inspected under magnification before any case moves to the next stage. The dial, the face of the watch, is manufactured in a separate facility and represents its own world of specialized craft. Rolex dials are made primarily from brass blanks that are electroplated and lacquered in various colors. The applied indices, the hour markers, are individually manufactured metal components, rhodium-plated or gold-plated, that are pressed into position on the dial surface by machines with sub-millimeter precision. The alignment of these indices, their height uniformity, the cleanness of their edges, these are features that the watch collector's eye notices immediately, and the average observer processes subconsciously as a feeling of quality. The movement, the mechanical heart of the watch, is where Rolex's manufacturing capability reaches its most extraordinary expression. Every movement component in every Rolex is produced entirely in-house at the Bienne facility, several hours from Geneva. A Rolex caliber, the technical term for a complete watch movement, contains between 200 and 300 individual components, depending on the complexity. Some of these components are measured in millimeters, some are measured in fractions of a millimeter. The thinnest springs in the movement have a cross-section measured in microns, the same scale as a human red blood cell. Manufacturing objects at this scale, with the precision required for reliable timekeeping, inside a commercial product that will be worn daily, submerged in water, exposed to vibration and magnetic fields and temperature extremes, for potentially decades without service, is one of the genuine engineering achievements of modern manufacturing. The escape wheel, one of the most critical components in a mechanical movement, is a flat disc roughly the diameter of a pencil eraser, with precisely shaped teeth around its circumference. The geometry of these teeth is not arbitrary. It is the result of centuries of horological mathematics, refined to allow the transfer of energy from the mainspring to the oscillating balance wheel with minimum friction and maximum consistency.
The escape wheel is machined on automated turning centers of extraordinary precision, then deburred and finished by hand under magnification. However, the next step changes everything. The components of the movement must be assembled by hand into a functioning mechanical system. This is the assembly and regulation process, and it is where the factory's investment in human skill reaches its peak. Rolex movement assemblers work at benches equipped with microscopes, illuminated to specific color temperatures that make surface defects and misalignment visible. The bench itself is designed to be vibration isolated.
The assembler handles components with tweezers, instruments with tips shaped to grip specific parts without marking them, and installs each one in precise sequence, applying specified lubricants of specific viscosities to specific contact points in the mechanism. At this point, one mistake, a fingerprint on a pivot bearing, a lubricant applied to the wrong surface, a spring installed backwards, can cause a movement that will keep time inconsistently or fail prematurely. The mistake might not be detectable until the finished watch has been through testing and shows an anomalous rate. Every movement that leaves assembly goes through timing measurement. The most impressive process in the entire Rolex manufacturing operation is the chronometric certification that every single watch produced by the company must pass. Rolex submits every movement to testing by the Contrôle Officiel Suisse des Chronométres, COSC, the Swiss official chronometer testing institute, which tests movements over a 16-day period in 5 positions and 3 temperatures. To achieve COSC certification, a movement must keep time within -4 to +6 seconds per day across all test conditions.
This is already an extraordinarily demanding standard. Most mechanical watches are accurate to plus or minus 15 to 30 seconds per day. COSC certification puts the movement in the top fraction of all mechanical timepieces made. But Rolex then goes further. After COSC certification, each movement is cased up and the complete watch is subjected to Rolex's own Superlative Chronometer testing, an in-house standard more demanding than COSC, requiring accuracy to plus or minus 2 seconds per day in the fully assembled watch. The testing is conducted across 7 positions rather than 5 over a longer period. To put that in perspective, 2 seconds per day means the watch gains or loses 1 minute in a month. Over a year, it is less than 12 minutes of error. For a mechanical spring-driven device with hundreds of moving parts, this is a remarkable level of accuracy. Watches that fail this testing are not shipped out with reduced certification. They are returned to the movement department for adjustment and re-regulation until they pass. The regulator, a watchmaker who specializes in timing adjustment, physically manipulates the rate adjustment system of the balance wheel to bring the movement within specification. This is a skill with no shortcut. It requires reading timing machine outputs, interpreting what specific patterns of deviation mean about the movement's regulation state, and making corrections, sometimes a fractions of a millimeter, to bring the rate into compliance. Water resistance testing is another stage that is more rigorous than most people realize. Rolex's Oyster case design, the hermetically sealed case with a screw-down crown and caseback, was patented in 1926, making it the first waterproof wristwatch case in history. The current Rolex Oyster case is certified to 300 meters water resistance on most sport models. Every single watch is individually pressure tested, not just sample tested from a batch, but each individual unit, in water pressure tanks that simulate the equivalent of 300 meters depth. The test pressure is actually 125% of the rated depth, providing a safety margin. A watch that shows any moisture infiltration at test pressure fails and is returned for investigation and rework. Here are the facts that make the Rolex operation genuinely extraordinary to contemplate. Rolex employs approximately 10,000 people across its Swiss manufacturing facilities. For a company producing approximately 1 million watches per year, their actual production figure is not officially disclosed, but industry estimates consistently place it around 800,000 to 1 million units. That workforce ratio represents an extraordinarily high investment in human labor per unit produced. The Plan-les-Ouates facility, where cases, bracelets, and final assembly are concentrated, is a purpose-built architectural landmark, a 9-story building clad in green ceramic designed by the architect Bernard Tschumi overlooking Geneva. The building houses clean assembly rooms, testing laboratories, finishing workshops, and administrative functions, all integrated into a single facility designed from the ground up for watch manufacturing. The smallest component in a Rolex movement, certain spring components and tiny screws, must be manufactured to tolerances finer than 3 microns. 3 microns is 3/1000ths of a millimeter. A human hair is approximately 70 microns in diameter. Rolex works to tolerances roughly 23 times smaller than a human hair. The bracelets, the Oyster, the Jubilee, the President, are themselves precision engineering objects. The links are individually machined, finished, and joined on pins that allow movement in one axis while preventing any play in the other two.
The clasp mechanism must open and close thousands of times over the life of the bracelet without loosening or losing its audible click. The end links must fit the case lugs without any perceptible gap or rattle. Bracelet production is a manufacturing discipline in its own right at Rolex. The total production value of all Rolex watches manufactured in a single year at average retail prices exceeds $10 billion. That output comes from facilities that cover, in total, roughly the physical footprint of a medium-sized university campus. The global distribution system that moves finished Rolex watches from Geneva to retail points in over 100 countries is itself a tightly controlled operation. Rolex does not sell through independent distributors or gray market channels, officially. Every watch leaves the factory and moves through authorized dealer networks, with Rolex controlling retail pricing, marketing materials, and the conditions of sale. The company does not discount. It does not hold sales. It does not liquidate excess inventory because there is no excess inventory. Demand has structurally exceeded supply for most of the past 2 decades.
And Rolex manages that gap, not by increasing production beyond what their quality standards allow, but by simply allowing the waiting list to grow. The aftermarket for Rolex watches is one of the more peculiar phenomena in consumer goods. Certain references, the Daytona, the Submariner, the GMT Master, trade on secondary markets at premiums of 50 to 200% above retail price. A watch that retails for $10,000 changes hands privately for $15,000 or $20,000. This is not a temporary speculation bubble. It has persisted for decades, driven by the structural supply constraint that Rolex deliberately maintains. So consider what leaves that factory in Geneva. A disc of metal, once a bar of 904L stainless steel, or a casting of proprietary gold alloy, has been machined to tolerances measured in microns, finished by hand to a surface quality that rivals optical components, assembled with 300 mechanical parts into a system that keeps time to within 2 seconds per day, sealed against water at 300 meters, and strapped to the wrist on a bracelet engineered to the same standard as the watch it carries.
It will run with periodic servicing for the lifetime of the person who owns it, and likely for several lifetimes after that. There are Rolex watches still functioning today that were made before the Second World War. That is not an accident. It is not marketing. It is the direct and traceable result of manufacturing decisions made at every stage of a process that refuses to compromise anywhere, at any cost, for any reason. A raw material that entered a factory in Geneva and left as the most recognized object in the history of luxury manufacturing. What surprised you most about how a Rolex is actually built? Drop your answer in the comments. We want to know. And if this kind of deep dive manufacturing content is what you're here for, subscribe. There are more of the world's most extraordinary factories to explore, and we are just getting to the good ones.